Hello plus 2 students. Today we will start fundamental of human geography. That is first lesson is human geography, nature and scope. You have already studied geography as a discipline in chapter 1 of the book Fundamentals of the Physical Education, NCERT 2006. Do you recall the contents? This chapter has broadly covered and introduced you to the nature of geography. You are also acquainted with the important branches that sprout from the body of geography. If you reread the chapter, you will be able to recall the link of human geography with the mother discipline, that is geography. As you know, geography as a field of study is integrative, empirical and practical. Thus, the reach of geography is extensive, and each and every event or phenomena which varies over space and time can be studied geographically. How do you see the surface? Do you realize that the earth comprises two major components: nature, physical environment, and life forms including human beings? You can make a list of physical and human components of your surroundings. Physical geography studies physical environment, and human geography studies the relationship between the physical, natural and the human worlds, the spatial distribution of human phenomena and how they come about, the social and economic differences between different parts of the world. You are already aware of the fact that the core concern of geography as a discipline is to understand the earth as home of human beings and to study all those elements which have sustained them. Thus, emphasis is on study of nature and human beings. You will realize that geography got subjected to dualism, and the wide ranges debates started whether geography as a discipline should be a law-making, theorizing or descriptive, whether its subject matter should be organized and approach of the study should be regional or systematic, whether geographical phenomena be interpreted theoretically or through historic institutions approach. These have been issues for intellectual exercise, but finally you will appreciate that the dichotomy between physical and human is not a very valid one, because nature and human are inseparable elements and should be seen holistically. It is interesting to note that both physical and human phenomena are prescribed in metaphors using symbols from the human anatomy. We often talk of the face of the earth, eye, or of the storm, mouth of the river, snout, nose of the glacier, neck of the isthmus, and profile of the soil. Similarly, regions, villages, towns have been described as organisms. German geographers describe the state country as a living organisms. Networks of road, railways and waterways have often been described as arteries of circulation. Can you collect such terms and expressions from your own language and from your own area? The basic questions now arises: can we separate nature and human when they are so intricately intertwined. Human geography defined. Human geography is the synthetic study of relationship between the human societies and Earth's surface. Synthesis has been emphasized in the above definition. Human geography is the study of the changing relationship between the unresting man and the unstable earth. Dynamism is the relationship, is the key word in simple definition. Conceptions resulting from a more synthetic knowledge of physical laws governing our earth and of the relations between the living beings which inhabit it. Human geography offers a new conception of the interrelationship between earth and human beings. Nature of human geography. Human geography studies the interrelationship between the physical environment and socio-cultural environmental created by human beings through mutual interaction with each other. You have already studied the elements of physical environment in class +1 in the book entitled Fundamentals of Physical Geography 2006. You have that these elements are landforms, soils, climate, water, natural vegetation and diverse flora and fauna. Can you make a list of elements which human beings have created through their activities on the stage provided by the physical environment? Houses, villages, cities, road, rail networks, industries, farms, ports, items of our daily use and all other elements of material cultural have been created by human beings using the resources provided by the physical environment. While physical environment has been greatly modified by human beings, it has also in turn impact to human lives. Naturalization of humans and humanization of nature. Human beings interact with their physical environment with the help of technology. It is not important that human beings produce and create, but it is extremely important with the help of what tools and techniques do they produce and create. Technology indicates the level of cultural development of society. Human beings were able to develop technology after they developed better understandings of natural laws. For example, the understanding of concepts of friction and heat helped us discover fire. Similarly, understanding of the secrets of DNA and genetics enabled us to conquer many diseases. We use the laws of aerodynamics to develop faster planes. You can see that knowledge about nature is extremely important to develop technology, and technology loosens the shackles of environment of human beings. In the early stages of their interaction with their nature, environmental humans were greatly influenced by it. They adapted to the dictates of nature. This is so because the level of technology was very low and the stage of human social development was also primitive. This type of interaction between primitive human society and strong forces of nature was termed as environmental determinism. At that stage of very low technology development, we can imagine that the presence of a naturalized human who listened to nature was afraid of its fury and worshipped it. The naturalization of humans. Benda lives in the wilds of Abus Mad area of central India. His village consists of 3 huts deep in the wilds. Not even birds or stray dogs that usually crowd villages can be seen in these areas. Wearing a small loincloth and armed with his axe, has slowly surveys the Penda forest, where his tribe practices a primitive form of agriculture called shifting cultivation. Benda and his friends burn small patches of forest to clear them for cultivation. The ash is used for making the soil fertile. Benda is happy that the mawa trees around him are in bloom. How lucky I am to be a part of this beautiful universe, he thinks as he looks up to see the mawa, palas, and sal trees that have sheltered him since childhood. Crossing the Penda in his gliding motion, Benda makes his way to a stream. As he bends down to scoop up a palmful of water, he remembers to thank Lugi, the spiritual of the forest, for allowing him to quench his thirst. Moving on with his friends, Benda chews on scant leaves and roots. The boys have been trying to collect Gajhara and Kuchla from the forest. These are special plants that Benda and his family use. He hopes the spirits of the forest will be kind and lead him to these herbs. These are needed to barter in the Madhai or tribal fair coming up the next full moon. He closes his eyes and tries hard to recall what the elders had taught him about these herbs and the places they are found in. He wishes he had listened more carefully. Suddenly, there is a rustling of leaves. Benda and his friends know it is the outsiders who have come searching for them in the wilds. In a single fluid motion, Benda and his friend disappear behind the thick canopy of trees and become one with the spirit of the forest. The story in the box represents the direct relationship of a household belonging to an economically primitive society with nature. Read about other primitive societies which live in complete harmony with their natural environment. You will realize that in all such cases, nature is a powerful force. Worshipped, revered, and conjured. There is a direct dependence of human beings on nature for resources which sustain them. The physical environment for such societies becomes the mother nature. The people begin to understand their environment and the forces of nature with the passage of time. With social and cultural development, humans develop better and more efficient technology. They move from a state of necessity to a state of freedom. They create possibilities with the resources obtained from the environment. The human activities create cultural landscape. The imprints of human activities are created everywhere. Health restores on highlands, huge urban sprawls fields, orchards, and the pastures in plains and rolling hills, ports on the coast, oceanic routes on the oceanic surface, and satellites in the space. The earlier scholars termed this as possibilism. Nature provides opportunities and human beings make use of these, and slowly nature gets humanized and starts bearing the imprints of human endures. Now we'll discuss about humanization of nature. Winters in the town of Drondium means fierce winds and heavy snow. The skies are dark for months. Carrie drives to work in the dark at 8 am. 8 am, she has special tires for the winter and keeps the headlights of her powerful car switch on. Her office is artificially heated at a comfortable 23 degrees Celsius. The campus of the university, she works in a built under a huge glass dome. This dome keeps the snow out in winter and lets in the sunshine in the summer. The temperature is controlled carefully and there is adequate lighting. Even though fresh vegetables and plants do not grow in such harsh weather, Carrie keeps an orchard on her desk and enjoys eating tropical fruits like banana and kiwi. These are flown in from warmer areas regularly. With a click of the mouse, Carrie can network with colleagues in New Delhi. She frequently takes a morning flight to London and returns in the evening in time to watch her favorite television serial. Though Carrie is 58 years old, she is fitter and looks younger than many 30 years old in other parts of the world. Can you imagine that has made such a lifestyle possible? It is technology that has allowed to people of Trondheim and others to overcome the constraints imposed by nature. Do you know about some other such instances? Such examples are not difficult to find. A geographer's Griffith Taylor introduced another concept which reflects a middle path between the two sides of environmental determinisms and possibilisms. He made it as a no determinisms or stop and go determinisms. Those of you who live in cities and those who have visited a city might have seen that traffic is regulated by lights on the crossroads. Red light means stop. Amber light provides a gap between red and green lights to get set, and green light means go. The concept shows that neither is there is a situation of absolute necessity, environmental determinism, nor is there a condition of absolute freedom. It means that human beings can conquer nature by obeying it. They have to respond to the red signals and can proceed in their pursuits of development when nature permits the modifications. It means that possibilities can be created within the limits which do not damage the environment, and there is no free run without accidents. The free run which the developed economies attempted to take has already resulted in the greenhouse effect, ozone layer depletion, global warming, receding glaciers and degrading lands. The new determinisms conceptually attempts to bring a balance, nullifying the either or dichotomy. Human geography through the corridors of time. The process of adaptation, adjustment with and modification of the environment started with the appearance of human beings over the surface of the earth in different ecological niches. Thus, if we imagine the beginning of human geography with the interaction of environment and human beings, it has also roots deep in history. Thus, the concerns of human geography have a long temporal continuisms through the approaches to articulate them have changed over time. This dynamism in approaches and thrust shows the vibrant nature of the disciplines. Earlier, there was a little interaction between different societies and the knowledge about each other was limited. Travelers and explorers used to disseminate information about the areas of their visits. Navigational skills were not developed and voyages were fraught with dangers. The late 15th century witnessed attempts of explorations in Europe, and slowly the myths and mysteries about countries and people started to open up. The colonial period provided inputs to further explorations in order to assess the resources of the regions and to obtain inventarized information. The intention here is not to present an in-depth historical account but to make you aware of the processes of study, development of human geography. The summarized table 1.1 will introduce you to broad stages and the thrust of human geography as subfield of geography, as it is shown table 1.1, broad stages and thrust of human geography. Now, welfare of humanistic schools thought in human geography was mainly concerned with the different aspects of social well-being of the people. These included aspects such as housing, health, and education. Geographers have already introduced a paper, a geography of social well-being in the postgraduate curriculums. Radial school of thought employed Marxian theory to explain the basic cause of poverty, deprivation, and social inequality. Contemporary social problems were related to the development of capitalism. Behavioral school of thought laid great emphasis on lived experience and also on the perceptions of space by social categories based on ethnicity, race, and religion, etc. Fields and subfields of human geography. Human geography, as you have seen, attempts to explain the relationship between all elements of human life and the space they occur over. Thus, human geography assumes a highly interdisciplinary nature. It develops close interference with other sister disciplines in social sciences in order to understand and explain human elements on the surface of the earth. With the expansion of knowledge, new subfields emerge, and it has also happened to human geography. Let us examine these fields and subfields of human geography. Table 1.2 we can discuss here human geography and sister disciplines of social sciences. You would have noticed that the list is large and comprehensive. It reflects the expanding realm of human geography. The boundaries between subfields often overlap. What follows in this book in the form of chapters will provide you a fairly widespread coverage of different aspects of human geography. The exercises, the activities and the case studies will provide you some empirical instances so as to have a better understanding of its subject matter.